Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And I really wanted us to talk really about, basically one of the greatest companies to ever, basically go public, and is Anthropic. And the reason I'm saying that is I want you guys to do a little bit of studying, right? I want you to go back and look at companies, right? Look at Amazon, look at Google, look at Meta, right? And I want you to go look at those companies to see how long did it take these companies to get to 100 billion. Apple, you can do it for Apple. Since they went public to when they got to making $100 billion, because the growth of Anthropic, based off of this article that I read, basically has them getting to 2 trillion in the next couple of years. I'm pretty sure that those numbers are extremely optimistic and ridiculously bullish. But when you think of they went from a billion to 9 billion by the end. So like starting the year in 2025, right? They went from 1 billion to 9 billion. Ridiculous growth. Ridiculous growth, right? Then, I think they're projected to get to 30 billion. So from 9 billion to 30 billion, right? And then from 30 billion at the end of the year, they're expected to be at 100 billion. So you know, ridiculous. Like I tell you, like go back and look at Walmart, Amazon, Microsoft, and look and see how long these companies had to, even though it is different. Like the money that the money wasn't like back then. The money isn't like it is now. Like companies are just growing a lot faster nowadays, or who knows if they're really growing like that. And to believe that this company is going to surpass Google, Microsoft, and eventually with their growth path they'll surpass Microsoft. Ridiculous, right? It took Microsoft is going to be not Microsoft, Amazon is going to be the first company to make $1 trillion in revenue, and you just have this company that just comes out of nowhere and is dominating the market so crazily that just gonna boom, they're just gonna surpass them. Like if you thought Nvidia was ridiculous, like I'm not saying like ridiculous like valuation rise. I think Nvidia is definitely valued correctly. You could kind of argue if what is the long-term view, like what do you believe Nvidia is going to be in 10-20 years? That's more debatable, but right now they're pretty much dominating the market. So I think Nvidia deserves valuation, almost a $6 trillion valuation. But when it comes to Anthropic, they're looking for $1 trillion valuation, and I believe that I have a theory that I believe that we are going to see a crash in the market. I think everything is kind of setting up for like the perfect crash, and I'm saying that like you have companies that are valuation a stretch, and I'm talking about new companies, IPOs. We just had this recent IPO that just came into the market that I think they achieved $100 billion valuation, that break all the records, the biggest IPO to come on the market. And now we have Anthropic, and we're expecting SpaceX, and we're expecting OpenAI to go on the market, and they're gonna just break records after records. And we're basically gonna be you're gonna have a lot of investors who are going to be paying these stretch valuations for these companies when these companies really don't. They're we're just so optimistic on the future that we believe these companies are going to be what they're claiming to what we believe them to be. And I believe that this crash is coming because inflation is rising, and I think there's a projection out there that believe inflation is going to get to as much as high as 5%. The tensions in the Middle East, don't seem like they're going down. We have a new Fed president, and I'm pretty sure the market's going to test him. I'm pretty sure he's going to implement certain things that are going to be seen hawkish. I believe the run up that we had in the SPY and in the run up that we had in the SPY, one of the fastest recoveries in our history of the market, especially in the last 10 years. I think everything is pretty much setting up perfectly for a nice little crash by the end of the year. That I do believe that we're going to get by the end of the year a 10 to 50, maybe even going to a bear market. I really do believe, because I just feel like everything is lining up for it. Because I do believe that inflation is going to get to the point that we can't ignore it. Like earnings have been great, and earnings, memory, especially when it comes to memory. Like some of these stocks in the memory lane that are working with I feel like they're gonna get to the point that they're so stretched. The valuations are so stretched. I believe these IPOs are gonna be really stretched. I think the fear of AI and the spending is gonna pop back up again, and we're gonna go into a bear market. I truly, but I think so. I really believe by 2027 or by the end of 2026, we're gonna be going into a bear market, and I can't wait because, like I said in my last video, why a long-term investor like myself and others would love a bear market, because those are when you really make your money. But I do believe that's my theory, of course, and maybe I'll come out with a video really breaking down my theory and going into depth in it. But I just think it's ridiculous because I like to study companies, and I always look at companies and see, like I thought CoreWeave was one of the fastest companies that I've seen projected to get to 100 billion. Because if you look at CoreWeave, I think is like one of the fastest companies to get to 5 billion. And they're projected to grow pretty ridiculously for the next few years. And they're going to get to maybe 100 billion in 5 years. I'll have to look at my chart. But I believe that they're projected to get to like 100 billion in the next 5 years. And that's pretty quick. But now you have a company like Anthropic that is projected to get to 2 trillion, right? Like I said, it's pretty ridiculous. In 5 years, like the growth is ridiculous. Do these companies, I'm excited to see what these companies are going to do. But to believe that this growth that they're going to be hitting, $100 billion in less than 3 years, and they started off at $1 billion. Come on, that doesn't even make any sense, right? It's crazy. The market is just, I talk to my friends about it, and I tell them, like, they'll be like, yo, how can you be in the market so deep like this? And I always tell them, like, yo, if you really studied these companies and you saw like how the market is, it's just so unpredictable. Like, you just had a company that we don't know nothing about. We just, all you know about the company is what you've heard, the celeb, whatever their name is, right? Like, and they went to, like, they just IPO'd and hit $100 billion market cap. Like, then you have companies like Salesforce, Adobe, that are generating billions of dollars, and they've been generating billions of dollars for years. And this company that just, like, we don't know much about. Now, boom, they're just $100 billion market cap. You have a company like SpaceX that I think they were projected at 16 billion. I'm pretty sure they have a pretty heavy capex. I'm pretty sure they're not profitable. They're not generating cash flow. Yeah, we're looking to see them at 1.7 trillion or 2 trillion. Like, yep, just like that. Not much to ask. That's what we're looking for. Right? I don't even understand how this company got to, in the private market, they said that they were at $1 trillion. I don't really know. I can't verify that type of stuff. I could only read and see, and, take into consideration what I read. But how can a company be worth $1 trillion, right? And they make less than $5 billion? Because that mean when they was in the private market, they were making less than that, right? But who knows? I don't know anything, right? I don't know. I just look at companies like Amazon and Microsoft, and I look at them and I study and I'd be like, okay, I understand why Microsoft is at 3 trillion. I understand why Meta is at 1 trillion. I think it could get to 2 trillion. I can understand why Google's at 4 trillion, and I understand definitely why Nvidia's at 6. Will get to 6 trillion. But you just have all these random companies now close to $1 trillion in valuation, and it's just straight off of optimism, and we're just expecting the best. We're pricing in perfection. You have Micron, that's up 600% in a few months. Ridiculous, right? Like, you got these IPO companies that are just coming out of nowhere and be like, yep, this is the valuation we're looking for. We're not profitable, but this is what we're looking for. We're not generating cash neither. We're operating at a loss, but this is what we're gonna do. Okay, perfect. You got inflation basically running rampant, and the market's at all-time highs. Well, and it doesn't look like the tensions in the Middle East are going down anytime soon, and it looks like inflation is going to continue to rise. No, we're just going to continue hitting all-time highs. I think we're just setting up for perfection for this bear market is coming. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Is Anthropic like one of the greatest companies that you've ever seen? If we believe these revenue targets and projections, this is one of the greatest companies to ever come. I can't wait to get some more information about their competitors, OpenAI. It's just is such a crazy market. It's fun to see. Definitely, if you guys have any questions, hit me. Put something in the comment section, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next one.